My name is Claire Whitmore. I'm 29. Last Tuesday at 6:47 a.m., I was standing in my father's office at Whitmore Marine Supply watching him shred a bank statement, my bank statement, that showed a $4,200 wire transfer I'd sent him 3 weeks earlier to cover his warehouse insurance premium. "Dad, that's proof," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "That's proof I paid it." He didn't look up from the shredder. The machine made that grinding sound, eating the paper in thin strips. "Proof of what, Claire? That you think you're running this business?" He finally met my eyes. His jaw was set in that way that meant the conversation was already over. "You've always had an overactive imagination, just like when you were 7 and swore you saw me take money from your piggy bank. I was balancing the books for you. I found the gap in, 'The books are fine.'" He turned back to his desk, dismissed. "Audrey handles the books now, real accounting, not your freight paperwork." My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my sides. "Audrey hasn't touched those ledgers in 8 months. I've been covering payroll out of my own account since July because the business account kept bouncing." "That's enough." My mother's voice cut through from the doorway. Elaine Whitmore stood there in her tennis whites holding her phone like a shield. "Your father said the books are fine. Why do you always have to create problems where there aren't any?" "Mom, I'm not creating." "You are." She stepped into the office. The morning light caught her diamond tennis bracelet, the one I'd helped pay for when their credit cards maxed out last Christmas. "You show up here before 7 a.m., accusing your father of lying, waving bank statements around like some kind of detective. It's paranoid, Claire. It's honestly becoming concerning." My face burned so hot I could feel my pulse in my teeth. "I sent $4,200 on March 3rd. I have the confirmation number. I have the—" "We never asked you for money." My father's voice was flat, final. "We have never received a single dollar from you. Not for the business, not for anything. If you've been sending money somewhere, that's your own confusion." The shredder had stopped. The office was completely silent except for the distant sound of forklifts outside in the yard. I looked at my mother. She was scrolling through her phone now, not even pretending to listen. I looked at my father. He'd already turned back to his computer screen. "I have 12 months of transfers," I said quietly. "Documented, categorized, dated. Then you have 12 months of paranoid fantasies." He didn't look up. "Audrey's coming by at 9 to go over the real books. You should probably leave before then. You know how uncomfortable you make her." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. I left. I walked out of that office, past the loading dock where I'd spent hundreds of hours during my 14-hour shifts catching invoice errors that would have cost them thousands, past the break room where I'd worked through lunch balancing their payroll, out to the parking lot where the morning sun was just starting to burn off the fog rolling in from the port. My car smelled like diesel and old coffee. I sat there for 20 minutes, not moving, just breathing. Let me take you back 4 years to when this all started. I was 25, just promoted to senior freight auditor at the Port of Savannah. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because Tuesdays were always chaos at the port. Container ships stacked up, invoices flooding in, everyone screaming about customs holds. I'd just finished a 13-hour shift reconciling a $340,000 freight error that would have bankrupted a small shipping company if I hadn't caught it. My phone rang at 11:18 p.m. My father. "Claire, I need a favor." His voice had that tight quality that meant money. "The insurance premium for the warehouse came in higher than expected. We're $3,800 short, and it's due tomorrow, or we lose coverage." I was exhausted. I had spreadsheets still open on my laptop, but I said, "How much do you need?" "4,000 would cover it, just until the Anderson contract payment clears next week." I sent it that night, Wells Fargo online transfer, confirmation number WT-449273-B. I saved the PDF receipt in a folder on my desktop. I didn't think much about it then. It was just a folder. I labeled it Harbor. Like the port, like home, like keeping ships safe. 2 weeks later, he called again. Property taxes, $6,200. I sent it. Saved the receipt in Harbor. A month after that, payroll was short. $8,100 to cover the warehouse crew. I sent it. Harbor folder. It became routine. Every few weeks, a call. Legal retainer. Equipment repair. Audrey's business networking fees. Mom's country club dues that kept up appearances for client relationships. I kept every single receipt, every bank confirmation, every text message, every email. I organized them by month, by category, by type. The Harbor folder grew. I didn't know why I was being so meticulous. Maybe because I worked with numbers all day. Maybe because some small voice in my head whispered, "You're going to need this." After 18 months, the folder had 247 files, $184,612 total sent, not loaned, sent, never repaid, never even acknowledged. I never told anyone. Not my coworkers, not my friends, not the guy I was dating who kept asking why I never had money to split nice dinners, even though I made decent money. I just kept working my shifts at the port, kept catching other people's expensive mistakes, kept wiring money home. The first real betrayal came 6 months ago. November 4th, Sunday dinner at my parents' house, their historic Federalist-style home on Gaston Street that I'd saved from tax foreclosure twice. Audrey was there with her fiancé, Brandon, some investment banker from Atlanta who wore Patagonia vests and talked about crypto. My Aunt Linda and Uncle George were visiting from Charleston. Everyone was drinking wine on the back veranda, that picture-perfect Savannah evening with the Spanish moss and the garden lights. I was helping my mother bring out dessert when I heard Audrey's voice carry through the French doors. "Claire? Oh God, no. She's always been terrible with money. She lives in that sad little apartment near the port and drives a car that's practically falling apart." Laughter. My aunt's voice. "But doesn't she have a good job?" "She works in freight." Audrey said it like I collected garbage. "It's very blue-collar. She's on the loading docks most of the time. Mom and Dad tried to help her budget, but she just has no sense of financial planning. It's honestly embarrassing." My mother was standing right next to me in the kitchen. She heard every word. I looked at her. She didn't look back. She just picked up the dessert tray. "Bring the coffee, Claire." When we got outside, my father was refilling Brandon's wine glass. He saw me and smiled, that public smile, warm and proud. "Ah, here's our Claire." Brandon was just asking about the business. I was telling him how Audrey's been instrumental in our recent growth. Real head for numbers, that one. "Dad," I started. "Claire, could you grab more ice?" My mother's voice. Gentle, dismissive. I grabbed ice. I served coffee. I smiled when Brandon asked what I did, and I said logistics because freight auditor made people's eyes glaze over. I listened to my father tell stories about teaching Audrey business principles, about how she was born with entrepreneur instincts, about the family legacy she'd carry forward. I went home at 9:47 p.m. I opened the Harbor folder. I stared at the number, $184,612. I added a new file that night. A spreadsheet. Every transfer cross-referenced with what it paid for. Warehouse insurance, $4,000 on March 3rd, $4,200 on September 15th. Property taxes, $6,200 on April 12th, $6,400 on October 8th. Payroll bridge, $8,100, $7,800, $9,200, $11,400. Legal retainers for the contract disputes Dad never mentioned. Mom's country club fees. Audrey's business development spa retreats, her professional headshots, her networking event fees. The business would have collapsed without me. The house would have been foreclosed. Audrey's polished public image, the one that landed her Brandon, was built on my undisclosed funding. And they called me bad with money. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop until 4 a.m., creating a master document. Timeline. Amounts. Proof. Everything categorized. Business operational, property and asset protection, image and lifestyle maintenance. The harbor folder wasn't just receipts anymore. It was a weapon I hoped I'd never have to use. 2 weeks later, I got laid off. Not really. But that's what my father told people. Claire's company downsized. Very unfortunate. She's looking for work. The truth, I was working 60-hour weeks at the port because we just landed the Maersk contract and I'd been promoted to lead auditor. I'd gotten a raise, $74,000 a year. Not rich, but stable. But looking for work sounded better than works on loading docks. It fit their narrative. The requests for money didn't stop. If anything, they increased. Christmas was coming. Audrey's engagement party. The business needed new forklifts. I sent $3,800 on December 2nd, another $5,100 on December 18th. My bank account dropped to $1,847. I started bringing peanut butter sandwiches to work. On Christmas Day, I wasn't invited to the family photo. Audrey wanted immediate family only for her engagement announcement pictures. I stood to the side in my mother's living room, watching the photographer position everyone on the staircase, that grand mahogany staircase I'd saved from a $22,000 repair bill. My father saw me watching. He walked over, drink in hand, looked at me with something like pity. "You know, Claire," he said quietly, "you'd be happier if you stopped trying to compete with your sister. You're just not built for this world, and that's okay. Some people are meant for ordinary lives." My throat went completely dry. "Practical work is important too," he continued. "Someone has to do the unglamorous jobs. You found your place. Be content with it." He patted my shoulder and walked back to the photo. I left before dinner. No one noticed. I drove to the port. It was empty on Christmas Day, just security lights reflecting off the shipping containers. I sat in my car in the parking lot and I cried for exactly 8 minutes. Then I stopped. Something had clicked. Something had hardened. I went back to work on December 26th. My manager, Curtis Webb, a 58-year-old former Navy logistics officer who'd been running the freight audit division for 20 years, called me into his office. "Claire, you look exhausted. You taking care of yourself?" "I'm fine. You're working doubles 4 times a week. Your error rate is still 0, which is frankly inhuman, but you're running yourself into the ground." He leaned back in his chair. "What's going on?" I almost told him, almost opened my mouth and let the whole thing spill out. Instead, I said, "Just trying to save money." "For what?" I didn't have an answer. Curtis studied me for a long moment. "You're the best auditor I've ever worked with. You caught that Hapag-Lloyd invoice fraud last month that would have cost us $180,000. You've saved this port more money than most people make in a decade." He pushed a folder across his desk. "That's your bonus, $12,000. Don't argue. You earned it." I stared at the folder. "And take 3 days off. That's an order." I took the 3 days. I didn't tell my family about the bonus. I opened a new savings account at a different bank, started rebuilding. January was quiet. No calls from my father. I let myself hope maybe things were changing. Then February 14th happened. I was at the port, in the back office, working through a container discrepancy report. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Claire Whitmore?" "Yes." "This is Jennifer Zhao from Southern Maritime Legal. We represent Whitmore Marine Supply. Your father listed you as an emergency contact. We're calling because there's been an issue with payroll processing and I'm not involved with the business." "I understand, but the business account had insufficient funds for this week's payroll, and Mr. Whitmore indicated you might be able to provide a temporary bridge." "How much?" $9,800. I closed my eyes. "I can't. The warehouse crew is threatening to walk off if they're not paid by end of business today." My father hadn't called me himself. He'd had his lawyer call me. "I'll send $10,000, I heard myself say, "but I need a signed acknowledgement from Mr. Whitmore that this is a business loan to be repaid within 90 days. Silence on the line. Miss Whitmore, I don't think Mr. Whitmore is treating these as loans. Then the crew doesn't get paid. I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I had to put my phone down. Curtis walked by my desk, saw my face. You okay? Yeah. I wasn't. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. My father. What the hell kind of game are you playing? His voice was ice. You're going to let 20 people lose their paychecks because of your pride? I sent you $184,612 over 4 years. Not once have you acknowledged it. Not once have you said thank you. And now you have your lawyer call me for more? We never asked for that money. You sent it voluntarily. That's not our responsibility. You called me every time. You said, just until the payment clears, or just to cover this one thing. It was never voluntary. It was you calling your daughter at midnight saying the business would fail. If you felt coerced, that's your own guilt talking. We have never received meaningful financial help from you. You're projecting your own insecurities onto. I hung up. My heart was hammering. I'd never hung up on him before. He called back. I didn't answer. He called 4 more times that afternoon. I let it go to voicemail. The last message? Fine, Claire. If this is how you want to be, don't bother coming to Audrey's engagement party. You've made it clear where your loyalties lie. You've always resented her success. Now you're sabotaging her moment. That's who you are. I sat at my desk until 7 p.m., staring at freight manifests I couldn't focus on. Curtis found me still there. Go home, Claire. I can't. Why not? And I told him. All of it. The money, the denial, the gaslighting, the harbor folder, everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. You have documentation? All of it? Every transfer, every text, every email, categorized by date and purpose. Good. He stood up. Don't delete anything. Don't send anything more. And Claire, you're not crazy. What they're doing has a name. It's called financial abuse. I'd never heard it called that before. March came. I didn't go to Audrey's engagement party. According to my mother's Facebook posts, it was a beautiful celebration of love and family. 200 guests at the Savannah Yacht Club, live band, passed champagne. My father gave a speech about raising daughters who know their worth. I saw the photos. My mother in Chanel, Audrey in a custom dress, my father beaming. All of it funded by money I'd sent. Money they swore they'd never received. I printed the photos, added them to the harbor folder in a new section. Public image maintained through denied support. April 3rd. I was on the loading dock at 5:30 a.m., checking container seals before the crane operators arrived. My phone buzzed. My mother. Claire, your father and I are very disappointed in your behavior. Audrey is hurt you missed her celebration. We think you need to examine why you're so threatened by her happiness. I read it 3 times. Then I typed back. I sent $3,800 for that party. Venue deposit on January 12th. You texted me the invoice. I attached the screenshot. She didn't reply. But 3 hours later, my father showed up at the port. I was in the main office, reviewing audit reports with Curtis and 2 junior auditors, Maria Santos and Joel Park. My father walked in wearing his yacht club blazer, looking completely out of place among the high-vis vests and steel-toed boots. Claire, we need to talk, now. Curtis stood up. Mr. Whitmore, we're in the middle of a work meeting. My father didn't even glance at him. This is family business. Then it can wait until Claire's shift ends at 3 p.m. I don't think you understand who you're talking to. I own a business in this port. I employ 20 people. I can make 1 phone call. And I can have security escort you out. Curtis's voice didn't rise. Your choice. My father's face went red, but he looked at me. Fine. Claire, there's been a misunderstanding. Come by the house tonight, 7 p.m. We'll clear this up like adults. I should have said no, but some small, stupid part of me still hoped, still wanted this to be fixable. Okay, I said. He left. Curtis turned to me. You don't have to go. I know. But I went. I showed up at 7:03 p.m. My mother answered the door. She looked tired. They're in the study. They, plural. I walked in to find my father, my mother, and Audrey all sitting there. Audrey had her laptop open. My father had a legal pad. This was an ambush. Sit down, Claire. My father gestured to the chair across from them. Like a performance review, like I was the employee. I sat. We've been reviewing the transfers you claim to have made. Audrey turned her laptop screen toward me. She'd made a spreadsheet, my transfers listed out with dates and amounts. I've cross-referenced these with the business accounts. None of these deposits appear in our records. My stomach dropped. That's because you deposited them and spent them the same day. They wouldn't show as balance increases. Or, my father said calmly, you sent money to the wrong account, your own error, and now you're trying to blame us for your confusion. I have confirmation numbers, routing numbers, account numbers. Everything matches your business account. Account numbers can be transposed. You work in logistics, Claire, not finance. This is above your skill level. Audrey's voice was so condescending I wanted to scream. I think what happened is you sent money somewhere, maybe an investment scam, maybe a personal expense you're embarrassed about. And now you're projecting that onto us. That's insane. Why would I? Because you've always been jealous. My mother's voice was soft, sad. Ever since you were little. Audrey got into private school, you acted out. Audrey made cheerleading, you quit dance. Audrey got engaged, you stopped coming to family events. You can't stand not being the center of attention. My face was burning. My hands were shaking. I have proof, I said quietly. You have bank statements showing you sent money somewhere. My father's voice was gentle now, concerned. Claire, sweetheart, I think you might need to talk to someone. This level of paranoia, this obsession with money, these false accusations, it's not healthy. I'm not paranoid. Then prove it. Audrey closed her laptop. Show us one. Just one. Piece of evidence that proves we received this money and spent it the way you claim. I could have. The harbor folder was on my phone. I could have pulled it up right then. But something stopped me. Some instinct. If I showed them now, they'd destroy it. Delete emails, shred documents, rewrite history. I will, I said. But not tonight. My father sighed. Claire, this is getting ridiculous. Either show us proof or admit you made a mistake. Stop torturing your mother with these accusations. I looked at my mother. She had tears in her eyes. Actual tears. For being accused of something she absolutely did. I want you to say it, I said to my father. Out loud. Did you or did you not receive money from me over the past 4 years? He looked me dead in the eye. We have never received a single dollar from you. Not for the business, not for anything. You are confused, Claire, and you're becoming cruel. I stood up. My legs felt numb. Okay, I said. Okay? Audrey looked suspicious. Okay. I must be confused. I'm sorry. I walked out. I got in my car. I drove to the port. I sat in the empty parking lot and I screamed until my throat was raw. Then I opened my laptop. I opened the harbor folder. And I started building the presentation. Every transfer, every text, every email, every lie. Cross-referenced, time-stamped, categorized. I worked until 3 a.m. When I was done, I had 94 pages. Irrefutable. Devastating. I titled it, The Cost of a Lie, a complete accounting of financial support denied, 2020 to 2024. Then I saved it, backed it up in 3 places, and I waited. I didn't have to wait long. May 1st, the annual Commodore dinner at the Savannah Yacht Club, the biggest social event of the season, 300 guests. Every business owner, city council member, and old money family in Savannah would be there. My father was being honored. Distinguished Member Award for his contributions to Savannah's maritime industry. I hadn't been invited. Audrey's engagement announcement would be in the program. My father would give a speech, the Whitmore family would be on display, perfect and successful and self-made. I bought a ticket. $250 I couldn't afford. Guest of Jennifer Zhao, the maritime lawyer who'd called me about payroll. She didn't know my family. She'd invited me because I'd helped her firm recover $400,000 in a shipping fraud case. I wore my only good dress, black, simple. I brought one accessory, a leather portfolio. Inside, printed copies of every page of the harbor folder. I arrived at 7:15 p.m. The yacht club was glowing, white lights in the palm trees, valet parking, women in cocktail dresses and men in summer suits. I walked in, found my table. Jennifer was already there with her husband. Claire, so glad you could make it. This is my husband, David. David, this is the freight auditor who saved our ass on the Chen brothers case. I shook his hand, sat down, tried to look calm. My family was at the head table, center stage, my father in a tuxedo, my mother in champagne silk, Audrey in something designer, her ring catching the light every time she moved her hand. They hadn't seen me yet. Salads arrived. Speeches began. The yacht club commodore talked about community and legacy. A city councilman talked about Savannah's maritime heritage. Then my father stood up to accept his award. The applause was thunderous. He walked to the podium, humble smile, gracious nod. He held the crystal plaque like it meant everything. Thank you, truly. This honor belongs not just to me, but to my family. He gestured to my mother and Audrey. More applause. When I started Whitmore Marine Supply 30 years ago, I had nothing but a dream and a willingness to work hard. No family money, no connections, just determination. I felt something crack open in my chest. My wife Elaine and I built this business from the ground up. We taught our daughters that integrity matters, that self-reliance matters, that you earn what you have. He paused, looked at Audrey. My daughter Audrey has embodied those values. She stepped up to help run the business. She understands that real success comes from your own effort, not from handouts or shortcuts. The room was completely silent, except for his voice. I see too many young people today who want success handed to them. Who blame others for their own shortcomings. Who live beyond their means and then resent those who've worked hard. His voice dropped, intimate, confessional. I'll be honest. Even in my own family, I've seen this entitlement. It breaks my heart. He wasn't saying my name. He didn't have to. But I believe in accountability. I believe in truth. I believe in earning your place through merit, not manipulation. Jennifer leaned over. Is he talking about someone specific? Yeah, I said quietly. Me. Her eyes went wide. My father was wrapping up. So I accept this award with humility and gratitude, and I promise to continue serving this community with the same integrity that built everything I have. Thank you. Standing ovation, 280 people on their feet. I stood too, but I was walking, straight to the front. My father saw me when I was 10 feet away. His face went completely still. I stopped in front of the head table, set the leather portfolio down, opened it. Claire, my mother's voice was a hiss. What are you doing? I didn't look at her. I looked at my father. You said you built everything from the ground up. No family money, no connections, just hard work. This is not the time. You said I was entitled, that I wanted success handed to me, that I blame others for my own shortcomings. Claire, please. My mother was standing now. Don't make a scene. Is that true, Dad? Did you build everything yourself? His jaw was set. The room had gone completely quiet. Every single person was watching. Yes, he said. Everything we have, we earned. And you never received money from me? Not a single dollar? That's correct. His voice was steady, confident. This delusion of yours has gone far enough. I pulled out the first page, held it up. March 3rd, 2020, wire transfer confirmation, $4,000 from my Wells Fargo account to Whitmore Marine Supply business account. Reference number WT-449273-B. Memo. Warehouse insurance premium. I set it on the table. The insurance was due that day. You called me at 11:18 p.m. the night before. You said you were $3,800 short and would lose coverage. My father's face didn't change. I pulled out the next page. April 12th, 2020. $6,200. Property tax payment on 427 Gaston Street. You texted me the tax bill. I have the screenshot. You said the business accounts were temporarily frozen due to an audit, and you needed this paid by Friday or you'd face penalties. I kept going. July 8th, 2020. $8,100. Payroll bridge for warehouse employees. Your CFO quit in June and you hadn't processed payroll. I have your voicemail. You said, and I quote, "Claire, I hate to ask, but the guys worked all week and they need their paychecks." Page after page. I laid them out on the white tablecloth like cards, each one a transfer, each one documented, each one undeniable. September 15th, 2020. $4,200, insurance premium again. October 8th, 2020. $6,400, property taxes again. November 2nd, 2020. $5,800, legal retainer for the contract dispute with Coastal Shipping. My father's color was draining. Audrey was staring at the papers like they were in a foreign language. December 18th, 2020. $5,100, Christmas bonuses for employees. You said it would look bad if the company didn't give bonuses. January 12th, 2021. $3,800, venue deposit for Audrey's engagement party. I kept pulling pages. The pile was growing. February 14th, 2021. $9,800, emergency payroll. Your lawyer called me because you didn't want to ask directly. March 23rd, 2021. $4,100. Equipment repair on the forklift. May 6th, 2021. $7,200. Warehouse rent. June 15th, 2021. $8,900. Another payroll gap. My voice was steady, calm. I sounded like I was reading a freight manifest. July 2021 through December 2021, $31,400 total. Various operational expenses, property maintenance, legal fees, insurance, utilities, every single one documented. Every single one initiated by you. The table was covered now. 47 pages of proof. I pulled out the final document, the master spreadsheet. Total transfers from March 2020 to April 2024, $184,612. Not loans, not repaid, not acknowledged. Because according to you, I looked directly at him, you never received a single dollar from me. The silence was absolute. My father opened his mouth, closed it. His hands were gripping the edge of the table. Jennifer Zhao stood up from my table, walked over. Mr. Whitmore, I'm Jennifer Zhao, Southern Maritime Legal. I called Claire in February about a payroll emergency. She wired $10,000 the same day to cover your warehouse employees. She looked at the papers. I see that transfer right here. February 14th, 2024. She asked me to draft a loan agreement. You refused. My father's face was gray now. I have the recorded call, Jennifer said quietly. You told me to tell her it was urgent, that the crew would walk off. You never mentioned it wasn't the first time. Someone gasped. I didn't see who. Curtis Webb appeared at my other side. I hadn't known he was here. Claire Whitmore is the senior freight auditor at the Port of Savannah, he said. His voice carried. She has caught over $2 million in invoice fraud and freight errors in the past 3 years alone. Her error rate is 0. She works 60-hour weeks. She is one of the most meticulous, honest, detail-oriented professionals I have ever worked with. He looked at my father. If she says these transfers happened, they happened. And if she documented them, they're documented correctly. My mother made a small sound, like something breaking. Richard? She said. Is this true? My father didn't answer. Dad? Audrey's voice. Small, confused. Did she... Did we really... She's manipulating the documents, my father said. But his voice wasn't confident anymore. It was desperate. The dates, the amounts, she could have fabricated. I have the bank statements. I pulled out another section. Original PDFs downloaded directly from Wells Fargo. Timestamped. Uneditable. Every transfer with your business account number as the recipient. I set them down. 10 pages, 4 years of banking records. I also have this. I pulled out my phone, opened my text messages, turned the screen toward the crowd. Every text message you sent me asking for money, every voicemail, every email, 247 files, all saved, all backed up. I scrolled slowly. The messages on the screen were clear. Claire, I hate to ask, but we're short on the insurance premium. Could you cover $4,000? Honey, property taxes came in higher than expected. Can you help? Claire, payroll issue. Need $8,100 by Thursday. We'll pay you back when Anderson clears. On and on. Years of them. My father stood up. His chair scraped back. This is absurd. This is a coordinated attack to humiliate me on... Why would I fabricate 4 years of bank records? My voice cut through. Why would I send myself $184,612 and claim you received it? What would be the point? Because you're jealous, my mother's voice, shrill now. You've always been jealous of your sister, of our success, of your success? I laughed. It sounded wrong. Mom, I have the breakdown. $41,200 went to property taxes on the house. $38,400 went to warehouse insurance and rent. $52,600 went to payroll gaps. $18,100 went to legal retainers. $12,300 went to Mom's country club dues. $8,400 went to Audrey's professional development expenses. $13,612 went to equipment repairs and utilities. I looked at Audrey. Your engagement party? $3,800 from me. Your custom website for your consulting business? $2,100 from me. Those professional headshots you used to land Brandon's attention at the Chamber of Commerce mixer? $890 from me. Audrey's face went white. The business you claim to run? The house you claim Dad built? The lifestyle you claim is self-made? I looked around at the silent crowd. It was built on $184,612 of secret support that they swore, under oath in their own living room, never happened. My father's hands were shaking, actually shaking. Claire, his voice cracked. Please, you don't understand the pressure. The business was failing. I had no choice. I was going to pay you back. I swear I was going to... There it was. Admission. Jennifer Zhao pulled out her phone. She'd been recording. That's a confession, she said quietly. On record. The room erupted. Voices. Movement. Someone saying, "Oh my God." Someone else saying, "I can't believe this." The Commodore stood up. I think we need to pause the evening. But I wasn't done. I don't want your money back, I said to my father. I don't want an apology. I want the truth on record. I pulled out the final page. My employment records from the Port of Savannah. March 3rd, 2020, the day you claimed I stole $4,000 from your safe. I held up the paper. I was on shift at the port from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Badge swipe records, security camera footage, 32 witnesses including 2 customs agents and my supervisor. I looked at him. April 12, 2020, the day you said I forged a check. I was auditing the Hapag-Lloyd container shipment. Time-stamped computer login. Digital signature on 14 invoices processed between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. I kept going. Every single time you accused me of stealing, of being financially irresponsible, of being delusional, I was at work. Documented, verifiable, provable. I put the papers back in the portfolio, closed it. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because you stood at that podium and lied. You told 300 people that you built everything yourself, that you taught your daughters about self-reliance and integrity, that I was entitled and blamed others for my shortcomings. My voice didn't shake, my hands didn't shake. But the truth is, you built your success on my silence. You maintained your reputation on my secret funding. You gaslit me for 4 years while spending every dollar I sent, and tonight you accepted an award for integrity while denying I existed. I picked up the portfolio. So here's the truth. Complete, documented, undeniable. Do with it what you want. I turned to leave. Claire, wait. My mother grabbed my arm. Please, we can fix this. We can work this out as a family. Don't leave like this. I looked at her hand on my arm. She was wearing the diamond bracelet. Let go, Mom. She did. I walked out. The April air was cool. The parking lot was half empty. I got in my car and I drove home and I cried for exactly 12 minutes in my parking lot. Then I stopped. My phone was exploding. Texts, calls, voicemails. I turned it off. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls. I listened to 3 voicemails. My father. Claire, please call me back. We need to talk about what happened. There's been a misunderstanding. People are asking questions, please. Audrey. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know the full extent. I thought it was just a few loans. Mom said you were okay with it. Please call me back. My mother. Claire, you've destroyed your father's reputation. The board is asking for his resignation. Was that your goal? To ruin everything? Please call me. We're family. I deleted them. I went to work. Curtis was at my desk when I arrived. How are you? Okay. That was brave, stupid maybe, but brave. I couldn't let him lie anymore. Curtis handed me an envelope. This came this morning. Board of Directors at Whitmore Marine Supply. They want to meet with you. They saw the documentation. They're conducting an audit. I opened the envelope. Official letter. Request for my records. Promise of confidentiality and protection from retaliation. You don't have to give them anything, Curtis said. I know. But I did. I sent them everything. The full harbor folder. 247 files. Every text. Every email. Every transfer. The audit took 6 weeks. The results: $184,612 in undocumented cash infusions from an outside source had kept Whitmore Marine Supply operational during periods of severe financial distress. The business had been on the verge of bankruptcy 4 separate times. The property at 427 Gaston Street had been in tax foreclosure twice. The public narrative of self-made success was false. My father resigned from the board. Audrey stepped down from her position. My mother stopped posting on Facebook. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. 3 months later, I was sitting in my apartment, the sad little apartment near the port, when someone knocked on my door. It was Audrey. She looked different, smaller, no ring on her finger. Can I come in? I stepped back. Let her in. She sat on my secondhand couch, stared at her hands. Brandon called off the engagement. He said his family doesn't want to be associated with the scandal. Her voice was flat. Mom and Dad are selling the house. The business is being restructured. I'm moving to Atlanta, starting over. I didn't say anything. I didn't know, she said quietly. I swear I didn't know how much you'd sent. I knew there were some loans, but I thought they'd been repaid. Mom said you were being dramatic. Dad said you had a persecution complex. And you believed them? Yeah. She looked up. Her eyes were red. I believed them because it was easier than believing I'd been living off your money while calling you a failure. Silence. I'm sorry, she said. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know sorry doesn't give you back 4 years or $184,000 or your relationship with the family. But I'm sorry. I sat down across from her. Why are you here, Audrey? Because you were right. About everything. And I was wrong. And I wanted you to know that I see it now. She pulled an envelope out of her purse. This is a check, $8,400. It's all I have in savings. It's what you spent on me. The website, the headshots, the networking events, the party deposit. She set it on my coffee table. I can't pay back the rest, but I'll pay back this, and I'll work on the rest, however long it takes. I looked at the check, then at her. I don't want your money, Audrey. Then what do you want? I want you to tell the truth. When people ask what happened, when Mom tries to rewrite history, when Dad claims he was the victim, I want you to tell the truth. She nodded. Okay. And I want you to never ask me for money again. Not for emergencies, not for loans, not for anything. Okay. And I want you to leave now. She stood up, walked to the door, stopped. For what it's worth, Claire. You were always the strong one. I was just better at pretending. Then she left. I sat there for a long time, looking at the check, $8,400. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. I deposited it, put it toward the savings account I'd started. Kept working. Kept living. 6 months later, I got promoted to operations manager. $95,000 a year. Benefits. Retirement matching. Office with a window overlooking the container yard. I bought a new car. Nothing fancy, just something that didn't smell like diesel. I moved to a better apartment. 2 bedrooms. One for me, one for an office. I put my desk by the window. On the wall, I hung something. Not the harbor folder, not the documentation. Just a small framed print that Curtis gave me. It said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." I laughed when I saw it. He wasn't wrong. My father tried to call twice in those 6 months. I didn't answer. My mother sent a Christmas card. I threw it away. Audrey texted on my birthday. Thinking of you. I didn't respond. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was just done. 1 year after the Commodore dinner, I went back to the yacht club. Not for an event, just to look. It was a Tuesday afternoon, empty, quiet. The water was gray and calm. I stood at the entrance looking at the building where everything had changed, where I'd finally stopped being silent, where I'd finally chosen truth over family. It didn't feel triumphant. It didn't feel like justice. It felt like relief. If you're reading this, I want you to know something. Silence isn't peace. Silence is the price you pay for someone else's comfort. And some people will take everything you give and still call you selfish for asking them to acknowledge it. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your secrets. You don't owe anyone the performance of being okay when they're draining you dry. The truth is hard. The truth is lonely. The truth costs you things you thought you couldn't live without. But the truth is also freedom, and that's worth more than $184,612. More than family approval. More than keeping the peace. Because peace built on lies isn't peace. It's just postponed pain. I'm Claire Whitmore. I'm 30 now. I work at the Port of Savannah. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I drive a Honda. I have $23,400 in savings. And I'm free. If you've ever had to choose between the truth and keeping the peace, type, "I chose truth" in the comments. Or, if you're still fighting for someone to acknowledge what they took from you, type, "I'm still fighting." Both are valid. Both are brave. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here.